Hey everybody, welcome back to another Tuesday's Tech Talk. As you can see, we're kind of right back where we left off last week, where we started the upgrade of this little Klipsch speaker here. Before I get any further into the whole upgrade and walk you through what we're going to do to it, I wanted to kind of go back and pick up a couple of questions that I keep seeing over and over. Two questions. One is, how do I know that the upgrade that I've come up with is going to sound better than what Klipsch originally put in the speaker? And the other question is, if it does sound better, why didn't Klipsch use those parts or do what you did from the factory? So let's take the first question there. How do I know that what I've done is going to sound better? And a lot of guys are just looking at the measured frequency responses and they're saying, okay, you made the frequency response smoother, it is flatter, it is more balanced, but how do you know it won't sound better the way Klipsch had it? You know, maybe they wanted the top end a little higher, maybe they wanted a little dipped area there because it'll sound better if that area is dipped. No, that's very little to do with the overall upgrade. Yes, I made the frequency response more accurate, but it's not just in the frequency response. That's not the huge difference that we're looking at here in the upgrade. Yeah, there's no more dipped area there. Certainly you would hear the dipped area. That's not as big of an issue as the phase relationship as far as time arrival of the tweeter versus the woofer and how that's interacting. And the big difference is the quality of the parts. Quality of the parts is huge. I kind of went through and did some math on the crossover that Klipsch has here, and they have a generic board that they use in a couple of different models. They've got two different model numbers there on the board that they use this board for. I doubt that the components are the same. They may be the same, but so they had these things, probably thousands of them made, and they use good purchasing power when you're making lots of stuff to get the cost of these parts down. So I'm guessing that the total for these is somewhere in the $3 to $4 range is what they're paying for the whole thing, versus this one larger inductor that I'm using in the upgrade is a $16 inductor. So, you know, already the difference in this disparity of the cost of the parts is pretty significant. This Sonic cap, which is a really high-end cap, is $9.95. Little RC cap is about $2 and some change. The Mills resistors are $6 a piece, you know, versus the Sandcast resistor, which is not one of your better sounding resistors. There's a lot of grittiness, a lot of degrading of the signal that you get passing it through the Sandcast resistors, but they're like 10 or 12 cents. So they're having to put this level of product in the speaker to meet the price points that they're selling it at. You got to remember, this thing is selling for $600. I think I've seen it around that range. If you find it on sale, you might find it for $500. So they're having to build the whole speaker for $120 for the pair, and that's boxing and everything. That's the normal budgeting of what they have to build it for versus what it's going to retail for. And my whole kit that I've come up with, which is all new crossover parts, which was, I think, a little under $47 worth of parts, plus tube connectors, plus the wiring, plus a sheet of no-res, totaled up to like $209. So if they took another $209 and put it into the design, and let's say they don't spend $209 on it because they're using purchasing power, let's say it's only $150, then that's going to increase this price by another $750. Even if they got it down to $100, I mean, you're looking at another $500 that it's going to hit the retail price. So the bean counters involved in trying to make sure these things hit the price points that they're going to hit aren't going to let them put high quality connectors and high quality parts and load it with no-res and things like that, because it's going to drive the price up. These would be $1,200 or $1,300 a pair. So it's obvious why they don't go to that level of performance with a product that they're targeting for this budget price point. And they did a really good job at offering pretty good value for that price point. So they really can't afford to do that level for one. So that's one of the reasons the factory doesn't do it. Now, people are asking, how do they sound? How do you know what you've done sounds better than what they've done? Well, for years and years we've compared the sound of these parts. We can drop these parts in and out of the circuit and make A/B comparisons, and there's a pretty significant difference in the way they sound. There's a huge difference in clarity and detail levels, space between notes. A lot of these parts here cause a lot of smearing. They'll blend a lot of things together. You won't get that clarity that you get from the higher quality parts. I'll give you an example of just an iron core inductor, which is, uses a fraction of the amount of copper versus an air core inductor. Even this little inductor here has more copper in it than this large one that they're using. In fact, I weighed these a little bit ago, and this one inductor weighs considerably more than the entire crossover. So when you take an inductor and you put an iron core through the center of it, what you're doing is you're making the value go up a lot. So you're using a lot less copper to get the same value that you need in the circuit. Now, what does that do in the circuit? There's a certain level of smearing that goes on from the iron core. Think of it this way. Think of back when you were in junior high and you learned that you could take a nail, and you could take that nail and you could wrap a copper wire all the way around it and hook that to a battery, and you're creating an electromagnet. Now, when you take that wire off the battery, you may remember that there was still a little bit of magnetism left in the nail. There was still a residual charge there. It didn't just dissipate that energy immediately. The same can kind of be said for an iron core inductor. It doesn't immediately dissipate that energy. There's a little bit of storage there, a little bit of smearing. When you listen to the vocals, you'll notice it's a little more run together. When you go to an air core inductor, it's a lot cleaner, a lot faster, a lot more open sounding, but it's a lot more expensive. So we already know that air core inductors sound better than iron core inductors, and when you get into higher level speakers, you'll notice they'll use all air core inductors. And even in the tweeter circuits, when the inductor already can be fairly small, you see air core inductors used quite a bit, because the iron core inductor in the tweeter circuit is really noticeable. You can really tell the smearing and the loss of detail and stuff. So big difference in the quality of the parts. We've A/B'd these parts already. We've made comparisons. We know the difference in how they sound. So we're stepping up in resistors, we're stepping up in capacitors. We're putting a really high-end capacitor on the tweeter that's really, really clean. We're going to air core inductors. We already know all those things make big differences. So I already know from the comparisons that I've done on these parts what to expect whenever we implement them into the speaker. So that's a biggie going forward. Next, we're going to look at the whole assembly and disassembly process, and the disassembly is easier than it looks. This ring is partially already off here, but there's a ring that goes around the outside of the speaker. You're going to have to be real careful in taking it off, but it's just pressed on, and you can pull that thing right off of there, and the screws are right there. Same with this tweeter. It's got a nice little rubberized flange around the front of it that once you remove and it just pulls straight off, then you can get to the tweeter. So next I'm going to start a little bit of a disassembly process. We're going to get these things gutted, and we're going to move over to the assembly table and look at how to put this stuff together. So hang in there. Alright, I'm trying something a little new. I'm on the back side of the camera now, letting you get a little glimpse of the insides of the little Klipsch speaker. This is the tweeter, which looks to me more like a conventional tweeter that's been placed into more of a waveguide. The woofer is really inexpensively made. That's a stamped steel frame, and it's got kind of a long voice coil former on it, but nothing special going on there. This is the inside of the cabinet now that it's been opened up. As you can see, there's glue and stuff that's run everywhere on the inside, like something that's been mass produced. Before we line this with some no-res, we're definitely going to have to go in and do a little scraping of some of the excess glue and stuff and clean up the inside. But we'll get her nice and cleaned up, and we'll show you a little more in a little bit. Alright, here I am again on the back side of the camera, showing the empty boxes now that everything's been removed. As you can see, there's a little bit of glue everywhere. They used some little corner braces here that helped in the assembly process. There's quite a few in the back of the speaker, but only 2 down this left side, not any on the right side. There's also some corner braces that they put on the front baffle, and on both speakers you can see they overlapped onto the woofer, so that these tabs here, these edges, are sticking out behind the cone of the woofer. So I'm going to take these back there in the shop, take a little hand die grinder with a little bit on there and just knock those corners off. And I'm going to have to go in there with a scraper and scrape some of this excess glue and stuff off and make sure the sides are nice and smooth. Get some of this old glue off so the no-res has plenty of contact area to stick to. Okay, I've cleaned up the insides of the cabinets. I took a little grinder to the edges of these little ears that were sticking out and got rid of those. Got everything scraped out, looking pretty good now. So the next thing you do is take the no-res and measure out exactly how big of pieces you want to cut to fit inside. In this case, I'm going to start with the top, and then I'm going to put pieces on the sides, and I'll put a little piece at the back too. No-res is easy to install. It's a pressure sensitive adhesive that's on this stuff. Let me put the old reading glasses on here so I can see. So you just position it exactly where you want it to be, and then just press it into the cabinet. Make sure you press it in there real good, and that's all there is to it. It's just that easy to install. Cuts like butter on the table saw. You just literally just run that stuff through the saw and it cuts it easily, and then peel and stick. It's just that easy. You know, you're not going to fill the whole cabinet all in one shot. You know, one sheet that fills this whole area is just not going to do it. So I just simply cut it into a couple of strips. So we'll put a strip that'll go on here and down the back, or down the side at the back, and just butt it up to the other one there. Press it hard against the side, and then this will be the one that's the same length. It's just going to go across the front here on the side, laying them together. Again, pressure sensitive adhesive. Just press it in there tight. You can see there I've got now this side and the top. One more side I'm going to do here. Slide this piece down in there. Again, I'm going to go all the way up against the no-res that's on the top, and I'm going all the way down against the little pieces that are on the side. That's going to be kind of what holds it up from the side, and then just press it hard against it. One last piece here. Slide that in there. It's going to go to the front. This enclosure is really easy to get it into. Look at there how easy that was. And then I've got a little piece of scrap here I'm going to put on the back wall right in the center, and a little space that's left there. The crossover is going to go on the floor. It's going to add a lot of mass to the floor. We're going to screw it down there, so I'm not going to put any no-res on the floor at this time. But it's ready for crossover stuff now. One's done, one's not. Can you hear a difference? How about the side panels? Rattle. Oh, lots different. Now, what does that equate to when you're listening to the speaker? Well, this is noisy. This is going to buzz and rattle and really color the bass response, even up into the lower vocals. This one is not. This one is going to have much tighter, cleaner bass. You're not going to hear that buzz and the rattle. I know a lot of people think that some speakers are designed that way. They're designed so that they have a lossy box and it's going to resonate, and that's going to add some bloom to the vocal and things like that. That's not part of the signal. That's not part of the input signal. That's not good. Yeah, you never want cabinet resonances to be part of the presentation. It's not part of the input signal. It's coloration. It's something that's not part of the original. It's just horrible. And once you get used to listening to speakers that don't have it, and then suddenly you hear speakers that do have it, well, it's immediate. You notice it. It's a resonance that's not supposed to be there. No res will take care of it. It's can't get much easier than installing no res. Great stuff. Alright guys, here we are at, I guess, what you'd call phase 1 of tube connector installation. These are the binding post cups that were on the back of this thing, and what I've done is removed a pair of them on each of these, and just had to go through the holes that were there and chase those holes with a larger drill bit. I started with one a little larger and then went to the one that I actually needed, which was a 7/16 drill bit, to drill out the holes for these tube connectors that are going to mount through there. The tube connectors mount real easily. I've got a pair of them on here, as you can see, and I've just barely pushed them in the holes. They fit pretty tight in a 7/16 hole. And what I like to do is I like to add just a little bit of super glue right around the outside diameter of these things, and let that work its way around on it just a little bit. Don't get too much now. Just a little bit around the outside edges. That'll really glue these two plastics together and make a nice strong bond there. And just push it through the holes. And it just snapped right into place there. And we see it there on the other side. That's where we're going to make all our connections. This is a significant upgrade across the board in the performance of the speaker. The clarity and detail levels improve easily across the board with the addition of the tube connectors. The original binding posts were a thin brass post, and all of these connectors were all just made of steel. I mean, literally, here's the original ones that we're going to leave at the bottom, and we're going to leave these here. We're just going to run a little loop of wire from here up to the top to the tube connectors, so you can use either or. And I love it when you guys can use either or. You'll plug in your tube connectors, and you'll listen to it for a while, and then you'll go back to binding post and listen to it again, and always get a response back that I can't believe how much difference this made. I can't believe what a difference it made in clarity, and my imaging is now better. Yeah, because you got all of this out of the signal path. I mean, look at this. All of this stuff that's on the back of the speaker is all steel. This is not what you want in the signal path. You want high purity copper wire, bring in your signal, you know, as best you can straight from your source all the way to the drivers. Now in the middle there's going to have to be, of course, some way of connecting it, some type of a binding post or something so that you can plug your speaker cable in. But that's where the tube connectors come in. That's where you get your best connection. This is the best thing you can use to, you know, compared to anything out there short of not having anything in the signal path at all. Again, pure copper hollow tube. You have a input on one side where we'll have a tube connector, hollow all the way to the tip. That's going to slide all the way through this hollow tube, and then your internal speaker wire is going to slide all the way to it, so you got tip to tip contact surrounded by a copper tube. It works great. So they install just that easy. I'm going to go with some hot glue, and I'm going to go around the back side of this real well with some hot glue and make sure that it's really held in there, and then that's all they need. That'll be fine. They're in there. That's it. That's as hard as it gets. It's just that easy to install. Okay folks, back one last time here. I've been working on these things at the end of the day, off and on, is trying to stay on them as best I can. Trying to get these videos all done, step-by-step process, working you through all of this. We just completed the tube connector installation, and as you can see, I've put some hot glue across the back of these things to really help secure them in, and plus them being super glued in place, so these things will be nice and solid. You can push those male connectors in and out of them now without any problems. Don't have to worry about them coming out or pushing out. I've videoed a whole group or a whole segment of videos on crossover assembly, and I've gone through the whole process of putting this stuff together. I've got some of it here. I've made some crossover boards. I'm going to shoot more videos on that, and next week we're going to see the whole segment of crossover assembly from beginning to end. We're going to wire these things up, and then we're going to mount them in the cabinets. We're going to complete the whole build next week and wrap this thing up. You guys are going to love this upgrade. It's an inexpensive upgrade compared to a lot of the upgrades we do. $209 covers everything. The sheet of no-res, two connectors, new wiring, all new parts. This will do it. I mean, this is a full-blown upgrade, replacing everything, and it's only $209. So this is, like I said, one of the cheaper upgrades we do. Usually going through and replacing everything like this is usually a lot more expensive, and it involves a lot more parts and things like that. So great deal, and tune back in next week and let's wrap this thing up and do some listening to them and make some comparisons. See y'all next time.